Can I help you?
My car broke down.
Let's see. A 430 sensor. It's common.
How much?
5,000 naira.
That's all.
Amora Johnson never imagined she would marry a mechanic. At 29 years old, she had a good job as an accountant in Lagos, Nigeria. She lived alone in a modest apartment in Lekki, drove her own car, and earned enough to take care of herself comfortably. But according to her family, none of that mattered. Every family gathering ended with the same question. When are you getting married? Her mother would sigh dramatically. Amora, your younger cousins are already married with children. What exactly are you waiting for? Amora would force a smile. I'm waiting for the right person, Mama. The right person won't knock on your door. Then her aunt would add her own opinion. You're too picky. Lower your standards. The truth was that Amora had dated many men. Some were rich businessmen. Some were lawyers. One was a politician's son. But every relationship had ended the same way. They were arrogant, controlling, or interested only in appearances. Amora was exhausted. One Friday evening, after work, heavy rain flooded parts of Lagos. Traffic stretched endlessly. Her car suddenly jerked. The engine coughed twice. Then everything stopped. Oh no. She tried restarting it. Nothing. She sighed heavily. Rain poured harder. She looked around and saw a small mechanic workshop a short distance away. An old signboard read, Daniel Auto Repairs. She grabbed her umbrella and walked over. Several mechanics were packing up for the day. Then she saw him. Tall. Simple blue overalls. Grease stains on his hands. Calm eyes. He looked up. Can I help you? My car broke down. He smiled. Let's see. He followed her. Within 10 minutes, he discovered the problem. A faulty sensor. You already know. He nodded. It's common. 40 minutes later, the car started perfectly. How much? He told her the amount. Amora blinked. That's all. He laughed. You expected something higher. She nodded. A lot higher. He shrugged. You only pay for the work done. She handed him extra money. He returned it. No. Why? You've already paid. Nobody had ever refused extra money before. That was the first thing she noticed about Daniel. The second thing was that he never tried to impress her. He never asked for her number. Never flirted. Never boasted. Nothing. She drove home curious. Who was this man? Little did she know that meeting him would change her life forever. 2 weeks later, Amora intentionally drove past the workshop. She told herself it was coincidence. Deep down, she knew she was lying. Daniel was walking under a car. He looked up and smiled. Your car broke down again. She laughed. No. Then why are you here? She froze. Maybe I wanted to say thank you. He smiled. That works too. She bought him a bottle of water. They talked for 30 minutes. Then she left. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Their friendship grew naturally. No pressure. No games. No pretending. He listened when she spoke. He remembered little details. He respected her boundaries. For the first time in years, she felt peaceful around the man. One evening, they sat outside his workshop eating roasted corn. Why did you become a mechanic? She asked. He smiled. I love fixing things. Cars. He looked at her. Not just cars. She laughed. What does that mean? Sometimes people need fixing too. She smiled. You sound like a philosopher. He laughed. Maybe. Then he became serious. What about you? What about me? Why are you always sad? She was surprised. Am I? He nodded. Even when you smile. Nobody had ever noticed before. That was the moment something shifted inside her heart. Months later, he finally asked. Amora, would you like to have dinner with me? She smiled. I'd love that. Neither of them knew that their love story was about to shock everyone around them. Over the next year, Amora and Daniel grew inseparable. Every evening after work, she would stop by his workshop. Sometimes they ate dinner together. Sometimes they sat outside talking for hours. Their relationship felt easy. There were no expensive gifts. No fake promises. No unnecessary drama. One evening, while they watched the sunset from a small restaurant overlooking the lagoon, Daniel suddenly became serious. Amora. She looked up. He reached into his pocket. For a second, she thought he was pulling out a ring box. Instead, he brought out a simple silver ring wrapped in a small cloth. Will you marry me? Amora stared at him. There was no crowd. No cameras. No violin music. Just sincerity. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes. Daniel smiled. And just like that, they became engaged. Unfortunately, not everyone was happy. When Amora announced the news at home, her mother nearly dropped her cup. A mechanic. Her aunt laughed in disbelief. A mechanic. Her uncle shook his head. Amora, be serious. He is serious, she replied calmly. Do you know how people will talk? Amora sighed. I don't care what people say. Her younger cousin smirked. After all your education, this is who you chose. Amora stood up. I chose a good man. Her mother folded her arms. Love doesn't pay bills. Amora answered quietly. Peace is more valuable than money. But nobody listened. For weeks, family members called her. Some begged her to reconsider. Others insulted Daniel openly. One woman said something that deeply angered her. He's using you. Amora immediately ended the call. Daniel, however, never reacted. Doesn't this bother you? She asked one day. He smiled. No. Why? People are entitled to their opinions. She stared at him. You're strangely calm. He laughed. Life becomes easier when you stop trying to impress everyone. Eventually, they had a small wedding. Nothing extravagant. Just close friends and a few supportive relatives. Many family members refused to attend. As Amora walked down the aisle, she noticed something strange. Several men dressed in expensive suits stood quietly at the back. They didn't mingle with anyone. They simply watched Daniel respectfully. After the ceremony ended, they disappeared. She ignored it. At least for now. Married life was peaceful. Daniel insisted they continue living simply. He still woke up every morning and went to his workshop. He still wore his old overalls. He still fixed cars with his employees. At first, Amara admired it. Then she began noticing odd things. One day she opened a drawer searching for batteries. Inside were luxury watches worth millions of naira. She froze. Why would a mechanic own this? She walked into the living room. Daniel. Yes. Whose watches are these? He glanced briefly. Oh, those. Yes, those. They were gifts. She raised an eyebrow. From who? Old friends. He answered too quickly. She narrowed her eyes. But let it go. A week later, another strange thing happened. At exactly 10 p.m., his phone rang. He immediately stood up. Excuse me. He walked onto the balcony. She overheard part of the conversation. Push the meeting to Monday. Silence. No, don't make any decisions without my approval. Another pause. I'll review the numbers myself. Then he hung up. She stared at him. Meeting. He smiled. Just helping someone. Helping someone. At 10 at night. She became suspicious. Then one afternoon, while delivering lunch to his workshop, she saw a black luxury SUV parked outside. A man in an expensive suit shook Daniel's hand. Chairman, the documents are ready. Daniel immediately noticed Amora. The man's face changed instantly. Oh, sorry, sir. Daniel quickly interrupted. Thank you. I'll call later. The man entered the SUV and left. Amora stood there. Chairman. Daniel chuckled nervously. It's just a nickname. She wasn't convinced. But she said nothing. That night, she couldn't sleep. Something wasn't adding up. The humble mechanic she married was hiding something enormous. She just didn't know what. And the truth was closer than she imagined. Amora could no longer ignore her suspicions. For weeks, strange things had been happening. The expensive watches. The late-night phone calls. The mysterious men in suits. And now, being called chairman. Something was definitely wrong. She wasn't angry. She was confused. One Tuesday morning, Daniel kissed her forehead before leaving the house. I may come home late today. She smiled. Busy at the workshop. He hesitated for a second. Yes. Then he left. For some reason, her heart told her to follow him. She felt guilty immediately. She hated dishonesty. But she also hated being lied to. 20 minutes later, she drove behind him from a safe distance. At first, everything looked normal. He headed toward his workshop. Then suddenly, he kept driving. He passed the workshop entirely. Amora frowned. Where is he going? 30 minutes later, Daniel entered Victoria Island. He drove into a massive corporate building. Her jaw dropped. The building was enormous. Luxury cars filled the parking lot. Security guards stood outside. As Daniel stepped out of his car, everyone immediately straightened themselves. Then she heard it. Good morning, Chairman. Another person rushed over. Sir, the board members are waiting. Chairman. Board members. Amora sat frozen inside her car. Her heart pounded violently. She watched Daniel walk inside confidently. He looked completely different. The humble mechanic she knew had vanished. This version of Daniel looked powerful. Authoritative. Like someone who owned the entire world. She sat there for 10 minutes trying to process everything. Finally, curiosity won. She entered the building. The receptionist smiled. Good morning, ma'am. How may I help you? I'm looking for Daniel. The receptionist immediately smiled. Do you mean Chairman Daniel? Chairman Daniel. Her stomach dropped. Yes. Oh. The chairman is currently in a meeting on the top floor. She blinked. Chairman of what? The receptionist laughed politely. Our entire group of companies. Amora felt dizzy. Our car manufacturing company, hotels, real estate developments, logistics companies, and investment firms all belong to him. She nearly lost her balance. Her husband owned all of that. She stood speechless. Just then, a giant digital screen displayed photographs. There he was. Daniel. Smiling beside world leaders, executives, and award plaques. Underneath was written, Daniel Adewale, founder and executive chairman of Adewale Global Holdings. She couldn't breathe for a moment. Her husband wasn't rich. He was unimaginably wealthy. That evening, Daniel arrived home. The moment he entered, he knew. Amora sat quietly on the couch. He sighed softly. You found out. She looked up. Her eyes were full of emotion. Who are you? He sat beside her. I'm still Daniel. She shook her head. No. You're not. He remained silent. Why didn't you tell me? Daniel took a deep breath. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? Of losing something real. She stared at him. He continued. Years ago, my life was different. He walked toward the window. Every woman I dated wanted my money. Every friend wanted access. Every family member wanted something. He sighed. I stopped knowing who genuinely cared about me. He turned toward her. So I disappeared. She frowned. What do you mean? I stepped away from public life. I handed daily operations to my executives. And I returned to the one thing that always made me happy. She immediately understood. The workshop. He smiled. Yes. I've loved repairing cars since I was a teenager. It reminds me where I came from. Amora sat quietly. Then tears rolled down her face. I'm hurt. Daniel nodded. I know. You should have trusted me. I know. You let me defend you every single day while everyone mocked you. Daniel lowered his head. I know. Silence filled the room. Then he said something softly. I wasn't testing you. I was protecting my heart. Amora wiped her tears. But marriage means trust. Daniel nodded immediately. You're right. For several minutes, neither spoke. Then he walked over and knelt before her. I'm sorry. She stared at him. For the first time since they met, Daniel looked afraid. Not afraid of losing money. Not afraid of losing power. Afraid of losing her. Slowly, she held his hand. We'll rebuild the trust. He smiled with relief. But neither of them knew their biggest challenge was about to begin. Because the people who once laughed at him were about to discover the truth. And their lives would never be the same again. Secrets never stay hidden forever. Within days, the news spread through the family. Amora's aunt was the first to call. Amora. She answered calmly. Good morning, auntie. Why didn't you tell us? Amora almost laughed. Tell you what? That your husband owns all those companies. Amora remained silent. Suddenly, the same woman who had insulted Daniel every day sounded sweet. We always knew he was a good man. Amora rolled her eyes. A few minutes later, another call came. Then another. Then another. Everyone had suddenly become nice. Her uncle arrived at their house carrying expensive gifts. Her cousin, who once mocked her, smiled awkwardly. We should all be closer as a family. Daniel simply smiled politely. He saw through everyone immediately. Days later, requests started arriving. Can Daniel invest in my business? Can he give me a loan? Can he get my son a job? Can he buy us land? Some relatives even showed up uninvited. One afternoon, her aunt sat comfortably in their living room. Daniel, family should help family. Daniel smiled. Of course. Her aunt smiled widely. My husband needs 50 million naira to expand his business. Daniel nodded. Wonderful. She brightened. Really? Bring me a proper business proposal. Her smile disappeared. Business proposal. Yes. Financial statements too. She blinked. What? Daniel smiled politely. If the business is serious, paperwork shouldn't be difficult. She suddenly became uncomfortable. 3 days later, she never returned. Daniel never insulted anyone. He simply refused to be used. One evening, Amora came home early. She overheard Daniel talking to one of his executives. The school project must continue. And double the scholarship budget. She walked into the room. What school project? He smiled. I wanted to surprise you. He handed her a folder. She opened it. Her eyes widened. Inside were plans for schools, skill acquisition centers, and mechanic training institutes. At the top was written, The Amora Foundation. She looked at him in shock. You named this after me. He nodded. You've always cared about people. She felt emotional. But why? He smiled. Because wealth only matters if it changes lives. She hugged him tightly. At that moment, she understood him completely. He never hid his money because he was arrogant. He hid it because he wanted peace. He wanted genuine love. He wanted someone to choose him before choosing his wealth. Months later, the foundation opened. Young mechanics received free training. Single mothers received business grants. Students received scholarships. Communities slowly transformed. One day, Amora stood beside him during an opening ceremony. Reporters surrounded them. One journalist asked, Chairman Daniel, why do you still spend time in your mechanic workshop despite owning billions? Daniel smiled. Because success should never make you forget who you are. Another journalist asked, what's the greatest investment you've ever made? Daniel looked at Amora. My marriage. She laughed as tears filled her eyes. Years later, people still told their story. The accountant who married a poor mechanic. The mechanic who secretly owned everything. But their favorite part was not the wealth. It was the lesson behind it. Because appearances can deceive. Sometimes the richest person dresses simply. Sometimes the most powerful person lives quietly. And sometimes true love only appears when money is removed from the equation. One evening, Amora asked him a question. If I had known you were rich the day we met, do you think things would have been different? Daniel smiled. Maybe. She smiled too. I'm glad I met the mechanic first. He laughed. So am I. Then he held her hand and said, money can attract many people. But only character keeps the right ones beside you. And together, they built a life that was richer than money could ever buy.